Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the top. Welcome to the organic perspective. This is a segment where we get to go through some of the biggest headlines in the agricultural world and try to make sense of it and try to really go through what do they actually mean, because every headline has a story, but not necessarily the whole story. So our job here is very simple. Get to go through those headlines and give our own perspective. I will not be doing this by myself. I'm joined by someone you probably know. You've seen her all over your social media. She goes by the name of Mary Kathomi. She leads Kilimo cha Haki, very, very much involved in the agricultural sector. Mary, welcome to the first ever episode of The Organic Perspective.
Thank you, Brian. I'm excited to be here, especially talking about agriculture, and honestly excited by your consistency in matters of agriculture in very hard circumstances, hard environments, but what else to do? This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for making the time. We've got few headlines that I want us to go through. Just quickly, I'll just go through some of the biggest headlines that we've got. One of them is the director of KWS went on our TV stations. He was actually appearing before the Senate Committee on National Security, where he confirmed that fish from Lake Nakuru are not fit for human consumption because they are so toxic, and they are actually guaranteed to give you cancer in the long term. So we'll have a talk about that. We'll talk about Ruto's fertilizer subsidy. Apparently, it's under threat from cartels. I don't know, this is not a surprise at all, because we do know we have such a characters in the ministry. So the idea is very simple. They just buy the subsidized fertilizers, repackage it, and sell it to farmers at market price. So that will be a very interesting story to cover. We've got another story here from the ministry as well, where CS Kagwe is now saying that we should stop subdividing our land. A very interesting take there. We'll have a look at it, because apparently we have over 8 million smallholder farmers, and they give our nation up to 80% of the food we eat actually comes from them. So should we actually be demonizing them, or should we be seeing how we can help them actually produce more, given their current circumstances? We'll talk about the coffee sector. Currently, the president did sign the Coffee Act, basically establishing a standalone coffee body. And what does that mean for the coffee sector? And apparently, there's a time he said we have enough parastatals, but apparently not. So we'll talk about that. We'll go all the way to Burkina Faso, where Ibrahim Traoré has now reached self-sufficiency in food production. That's a big deal. We'll tell you why. Because he is not the first to do that. Apparently, Thomas Sankara also achieved that feat early on. We'll talk about Dangote. Africa's richest man has now opened the largest fertilizer facility just above us in Ethiopia. Why not in Kenya? We'll have a talk about that as well. And lastly, but not least, we have this guy from Zambia who is having 62 kids, and he also has 7 wives. How does he take care of the family? Apparently all from farming. So those are very, very interesting topics. Which one of those sort of excites you the most, do you think?
The 62 kids.
Yeah, interesting, because we live in a world where, I mean, most young people nowadays don't want to get into marriage, or at least find someone to have children with. But apparently this guy lives in an alternative universe. So we'll have a talk about that as well. But first, I want us to start with that first story about from Lake Nakuru. So apparently, fish from Lake Nakuru is highly toxic. In fact, it's guaranteed to give you cancer. So this is a story from the Daily Nation, and it goes like this. So appearing before the Senate Committee on National Security, the KWS director, Prof. Erastus Kanga, admitted that in a few years, Kenyans will be dying from cancer as a result of consuming fish from Lake Nakuru. Apparently, this is not a new phenomenon. Back in 2020, when there was water rising from Lake Nakuru, it was confirmed then that indeed that water was very toxic. Guys go there. The reason why, it's because apparently they can make anywhere from 800 to 1,000 bob per day. So from fishing, I'm thinking that's about 4 or 5 fish per day they can able to catch. And then in 2024, the government, actually the then cabinet secretary, Muvuria, actually warned that fish from Lake Nakuru contained up to 32% toxic metal content. So what this basically means is a third of the fish is toxic. So every time let's say you have a fish, you're eating fish, the first bite, second bite, the third bite you're taking a concoction of toxic metals. One of them is, of course, arsenic, which is a confirmed cancer-causing toxic. So very, very interesting story here. First of all, are you a fan of fish?
Initially, everyone wanted to eat fish from Lake Victoria. Yeah. It was the only, Lake Victoria and Lake Turkana, the only freshwater lakes that we have in Kenya. But with capitalism, with the urge to make more and more money, people went to fish ponds, and it's been so commercialized. And you know, when we talk about ethical ways of food production, the buck just doesn't stop with the policies and government. Actually, the bigger percentage of it is us, the farmers. Yeah. We are involved in very unethical ways of food production. And this does not leave fish production out, you know. Even the way we do our fish farming, even, you know, farmers clearly know that, even the fishermen around there clearly know that this fish is poisonous, is going to affect someone. But because of that 1,000, that 800 shillings, they don't care. And that's just not it. That transcends in all areas of food production. Farmers produce food in very unethical ways, and they know it. They know it, but they still do it. I don't know if it's a country culture. I don't know if it's capitalism, it's greed. But now the love of fish, you step back a bit when you know, like, the market is poison. So, like, for me, when I want white meat, I'll only do kienyeji chicken. And kienyeji chicken has a particular smell, so I'll know. I don't do broiler. I'll do rabbit meat. I don't do, unless I'm in Kisumu, because I know then I'm eating a good fish. Yeah. But here in Nairobi,
Yeah. It's quite interesting because you mentioned about the ethics on what our farmers are willing to do. An interesting fact is that Lake Nakuru has no outlet. So all the water that flows in it actually stays there. So what that means, all the water that goes through, because there's a river, Njoro, that passes through Nakuru city. So first of all, in the uplands of River Njoro, there are farmers there. And guess what they're growing? They're growing potatoes, they're growing flowers, and they're spraying a lot of toxic chemicals, the glyphosate. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, the paraquats. And all these chemicals are going to River Njoro. That river is passing through Nakuru city. And guess what? Guys in the city are throwing all those chemicals into the river, and that river goes straight to the lake. So you can imagine a lake that doesn't have an outlet, those toxic literally stay there. So when they stay there, guess what? The fish there, apparently they have a way that they cannot necessarily die from the toxins because now they have adapted to the toxins. So what happens? It's us who is affecting. So once we eat that fish, it's highly, highly toxic. And the toxicity is much more potent to us than, let's say, there are vultures who eats it and such a kind of stuff. So I think from that perspective, then, that begs the question. I guess the county government knows that there's this problem. Why do they not act at all?
It's a bit hard to control what Kenyans around Nakuru are doing. I've come across farmers, not just in the fish farming, when they're just out to make something, they need to make an income. They'll even bypass the law authority. People do everything just to make sure they have something. You've seen a lot of meat in Nairobi is actually like, say, donkey meat. Okay, it's not like donkey meat is bad meat, but in our culture, we don't consume donkeys. And it boils back. Let me tell you, the buck stops with the people. I don't fault the government on this. When the government comes out and says, this fish is poisonous, please do not go there to fish. There are still people who will go there and fish and sell it, And I think our ethics, our morals as a people have degenerated so much. We have literally no value for life. When farmers are spraying chemicals upstream, your mind has not told you have a relative who will actually consume that water at some point, a third party, a fourth party, and this is going to affect us. So honestly, when we do, and you're very good at this, when you do organic farming, it is actually more so on the way we produce our foods, not just production, even storage, the entire process to bringing that food on our plates. So I think the buck comes back to us. It might not affect you directly. It's going to affect you indirectly. You're going to be put in a WhatsApp group of a cancer patient. Maybe you actually played a part of making that person get cancer by the way you farmed your food. So it's a vicious cycle. It never ends. We are all affected. And I think as there's someone who was saying this, Kenyans have no idea of what we call Ubuntu. You are because I am. That is an African vibe, Kenyans have lost every aspect of that. So before you do something, just imagine if it affects another person, it's also going to affect you.
In one way or another, because we are, as they say, nature is sort of interconnected.
It's so interconnected. Yeah. It's not about the other person. It's going to affect you in the long run. So when you think about it like that, then you're more motivated to do ethical ways of food production, of storage, of everything. I live in a farm area. Literally, all the vegetables that come from in Nairobi, they come from where I live. And they've improved over the years, but there's a lot of spraying. But even with the kidogo spraying, they spray the food. They'll never consume that food. In their backyard, pale nyuma, they'll plant the kidogo that they will consume. So if you yourself can't consume what you've sprayed, why are you selling it to the consumer market? So the buck comes back to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more our farmers are able to take accountability on this, I think the better. They'll say, guys, come to us and sell us these chemicals, right? And we don't want to lose the food that we are growing, right? We need to control pests and diseases, so we need to use such a chemicals. And this makes you wonder, actually, how many more lakes are like this that have become too toxic for us to eat fish from it. Because the first thought comes is like Naivasha, for example. We know it's surrounded by flower farms, which use very, very toxic chemicals. In fact, it's actually confirmed that even the people who work on those flower farms have actually been affected by these cancer-causing chemicals.
Actually, I have a friend who literally got throat cancer. He works in the farm. Yeah. He works actually a manager. But 5 years down the line, he had throat cancer. You can clearly see age and everything. This person has actually been affected due to exposure to these chemicals.
Yeah. I think this is just one of the smoke screen, and that begs the question: how many more of these are there? And for me, I don't know. I've never really liked. I don't know if you can tell when you eat fish, let's say from a pond.
You tell the tastes completely different. Yeah. You clearly tell where this fish comes from. And of course, okay, maybe you have an advantage. You come maybe from an advantage of understanding this. But you can clearly tell that this fish is from a pond, it's flat. They just have something funny about it. But Brian, there's something that I asked. We were having like a back conversation about these things. We know these problems. We know they exist. Just imagine if the government had like a total ban on all carcinogenic sprays. Just ban them. It doesn't matter if it is to the flower farm. It doesn't matter if it is to the horticulture industry. Just ban this. The companies that are producing these herbicides and pesticides are here in industrial area. Why don't we just ban them come and buy. Let's see what will happen if flowers won't be produced. Flowers will still be produced, I think it's a lack of that, like willingness to fix the bigger picture, to fix a problem.
Yeah, because it's crazy you say that. Yes, these guys do produce these flowers. They go sell them at international market. But guess who bears the brunt of these toxic chemicals? It's us. It's our parents, right? It's our friends.
And actually, we don't even enjoy the money.
Yeah.
We don't enjoy the money. They don't pay like taxes that are going to clear a particular IMF loan, nothing, So we suffer without the benefits of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And apparently, there is a way you can actually spot toxic fish. So one of the way is actually the fish that is from highly toxic water it does have duller and dark color. Even it has small lesions or like the small spots on the screen as a result of the heavy metals that has caused that screen, the skin. Yeah. Okay. And it has some spots in there. So that's one way to look at it. The second is the gills. So apparently a healthy tilapia should have like a bright sort of a cherry red gills. But for the toxic fish, you'll find it's pale and it's brown. So it has absorbed those chemicals. And yeah, if you want to see it, you can have a look at that. But I think the most obvious, or like something that I found interesting, is that the toxic fish has like a big head, but then it has, the body is just slim. Ni kama iko na kwashi yako in a way. Yeah. So if you see such a fish, then you should be sort of suspicious of is being loaded by toxic chemicals. So that's an interesting way to look at it, but it will be better if we don't have to do that, right? You don't want to go to your local fish supplier and you're trying to look at it like...
Now that you've told us, now you're more alert. Majority of Kenyans don't even know the tastes of fish. So we need this to, when the government doesn't come in to protect the people must scheme ways of protecting themselves.
Absolutely. So in your perspective, what do you think is the best path forward? Because we have a couple of options. One, I think the most important one is you stop it from the source, right? Yeah. Go to the farmers, tell them, hey, guys, stop spraying these chemicals that are affecting our fish downstream. Pass through the town and saying, like, guys, stop throwing your chemicals off into this river. It's going to Lake Nakuru. So if you are the governor of Nakuru, what do you do exactly to sort of help this situation?
Looking at it, agriculture is already devolved. It's a devolved function of the county government. And I think the county government of Nakuru needs to come in like really strong. There's an aspect played in by the county government, there's the national government part of it. But on the national government part of it, what is so hard about banning these carcinogenic chemicals? Just ban them. Because I think we were having a conversation, and we are so superficial, we are so hypocritical when it comes to us wanting to sort our problems. Like we know we have a beer problem, we have illicit beer in the country, but we will never go for the manufacturers. We will never go to the people that actually do those very toxic beers. But then we go to close the pubs, we deny the licenses. The genuineness of sorting that problem is not there. Just close this. Whatever's. So what I think the government needs to come in, the Minister of Agriculture needs to come in strong and ban no production of carcinogenic chemicals. This needs to be discussed in Parliament. Any herbicides, pesticides that contains this and this and this ingredient should be banned. That's what Europe has done. Completely banned carcinogenic chemicals, And I don't know how much we hate ourselves. Have you seen the process of exporting even avocados from Kenya? Have you seen the way they go through, they test them? So if you're going to be testing an avocado this much for export, why can't you do even near that for local consumption? So I would say it's not, the solution is not one side. We need the county government there, we need the national government there, we need the farmers in there, the locals in there. You find people running factories in Nakuru, and maybe they've directed the waste to the lake. And they know what they are doing. I've personally seen that. I've been, for example, in Machakos County, I was shocked. Like just behind Machakos County, like you out of the suburb, literally the entire sewage is directed to a river that is flowing downstream. So if it's going downstream, animals are going to consume, human beings are going to consume. So why don't we be a bit more responsible in that? Because I think it's a bigger problem. It's interconnected and everyone is affected. Sometimes you think you're not affected, you are affected.
Yeah, and I think it goes along the way, having that personal accountability, especially from the manufacturers, from the farmers, from the government, makes things a little bit easier. I want us to move into the second story, and it's on the subsidy fertilizer program. So this is from the Daily Nation, and it's reporting that Ruto's fertilizer subsidy is under threat from cartels. And it goes on to say a network that is operating across the country has been collecting subsidized fertilizers in bulk, transporting them to private premises for repackaging, and reselling them at double the government subsidized price. Under the programs, farmers are allocated a commodity based on the number of acres registered with the Ministry of Agriculture, redeemable by vouchers each planting season. In the past 2 weeks, police have arrested 10 suspects linked to these criminals, mainly in the Rift Valley Western, sort of pointing into a larger, well-organized network. DCI has confirmed that there is a collusion between officers in the NCPB, particularly in Webuye, Voi, and with cartels undermining the program. This is not really surprising to me because we know such characters exist in government. Apparently, in the system, they have up to 6.4 million farmers, and they claim that 5 million of them are active. Do you know someone who actually uses this system?
I'm really interested in the data around that story. 5 million are active, and I wish it were digested more to know the percentages per county or per regions, because not every county, we have pastoralistic zones in Kenya, we have agricultural, we have maize areas, and it looks like it's a noble cause. Definitely, it's a noble cause, but the implementation of it is more so for the people to eat. People up here to eat. The implementation of it doesn't look like really genuine because farmers are registered in something like sort of a KIMS kit, with their acreage. So you sent a message when the fertilizer, like say, lands in the country, and you're supposed to go to NCPB and redeem with a voucher. How many NCPBs, for example, do we have in Kenya?
Apparently, there are 110 NCPB depots across 46 counties. And then you are allocated 2 bags per hectare, and there's actually a cap. So for a farmer, you have a cap of 100 bags per planting season. So if you have more than like 200 hectares, you can't go and claim like 200 bags. So there's also that cap to sort of prevent guys from hoarding or saying, hey, I have thousands of hectares of land and I want more fertilizers. So there's those small measures that they have done to sort of trying to improve the system. But apparently there are guys within the system who, let's say, know the system more than a lot more people know it. And that's what bringing the system down, I guess, to a large extent. It's a noble thing to have, as you said, in terms of giving farmers fertilizers. But now we've got a problem where a lot of farmers, especially in the Western and in the Rift Valley region, their soils are becoming acidic due to applying these fertilizers. And I was actually reading somewhere, now the government is moving forward to start giving them lime and actually subsidizing lime to farmers. So when you look from that perspective, you're like, are these guys serious? Because you have this noble program that's supposed to help farmers, but in the long term, it's sort of harming them. And the solution you're trying to give them is to give them lime. I feel like there's a disconnect there.
We've lost the fundamentals of food production. We've completely lost the fundamentals of food production. Flora and fauna is so interrelated. Everything works around each other. And when I tell you we've really lost it, it's because in those punitive bills that were sponsored in Parliament, there's a bill that was actually criminalizing the use of manure. There was a clause in one of those bills that was criminalizing the use of manure. And I've seen most of the farmers from where I come from that do vegetable farming, nowadays, they majorly use manure. Okay, as much as you're going to use fertilizer, to be able to balance your soil, you must constantly use manure. Yeah. That sort of balances the soil. So, okay, fine. Fertilizer is just one tool. It's a farm input. Yeah. It's one farm input for food production. Of course, everything around it is a whole another discussion. We can have 3 hours of that discussion around how that fertilizer is supposed to get to the farmer. I feel like they create a bureaucracy to benefit a particular elite. They at the face value, you see this is a noble solution to the farmer, and I agree. At the face value, awesome. But then around that, they create a bureaucracy that is actually not meant to benefit the farmer, that is meant to benefit an elite. And Brian, trust me, they know what is going on. They bring these fertilizers in, they import them, melis in Akuja na Malori. They are stored in government warehouses. So if that fertilizer is not balancing with the vouchers, because it's supposed to balance what came in and what went out, trust me, they know. So if there's a sabotage, it is on high level. It is not on low level. That said and done, fertilizer is not the only aspect of food production. It is a small part of it. We have many factors of food production. We would have a conversation about seeds. We would have a conversation of the climatic changes. We would have a conversation about rain. We would have a conversation of other farm inputs. All this needs to come together to guarantee a good harvest or a good return on investment as part of this, this farming project. So fertilizer alone, you cannot guarantee a good food production because the rains might fail. Ulieka fertilizer, the rains might fail. You need farm hands to come and farm. We are discouraging farmers to spray, not to keep spraying of anything they're spraying. Are we encouraging monocropping? Are we doing intercropping? So there are so many aspects towards that. There's also the big one of it, post-harvest, which is actually the biggest when it comes to farming. When you talk to a farmer in Kitale, they're going to tell you, unajua, for me to harvest one bag of maize, I spend, say, like 4,000-5,000 in terms of my expenditure. But post-harvest, do we have a mechanism of NCPB siphoning that maize quickly from the farmers and storing it and giving them a good price? We would kill the brokers. We would completely kill the brokers who zunguka with maloris. And don't forget, you find these brokers, they work with NCPB officials. Msichukue mahindi, wekeni aka kabei, so that when the bei iko chini ya NCPB, so when the brokers go, they can even top up like 500, 1,000. But still, the farmer is not able to recoup their investment. So when they talk about tulipeana fertilizer, tulifanya, is it genuine? Did you look at it as a full picture? Because imagine today if just about mahindi kiavestiwa, like weeks too, and NCPB goes, and I've never even seen an ad, I've never even seen an announcement by the Minister of Agriculture saying, tutachukua mahindi at 7,000. Trust me, there's no one broker who will get maize across the country. Kenyans will die taking that maize to NCPB. Gunia moja na 7,000. And what does the government, in such a situation, what has the government done? The waste after harvest will be very minimal. No. And so we need to be genuine about this. So for me, when you see an effort towards something, like a serious effort, kuna mtu anakula. Like genuinely, they are not interested in secure. No, they are not interested in that.
I think it's interesting you talked about following the money. So just a little bit of numbers here. Apparently, the agricultural sector usually has a budget of 78 billion Kenya shillings. Of that, 8.2 billion goes to the fertilizer subsidy program. So you can see like about 10% of that goes to that particular program. And if you follow the money, then you will understand why a lot of cartels are interested in this particular program, because there's a lot of money there to be eaten. So normally, let's say on the market, if you go to buy a 50 kg fertilizer, you'll get it at 7,000. And if you are registered in the system and you go to NCPBB, you are going to get it at 2,500. So the government is literally subsidizing 5,000 Kenya shillings per 50 kg of bag. That makes you wonder, is that actually even sustainable in the long run? So does that mean if there's no subsidy, farmers cannot use these fertilizers? And that makes you wonder, why is that the case? And for me, this is one of the suggestions actually I will have to the guys there, that they should start incorporating organic fertilizers as part of the fertilizer subsidy, because we know the soils are becoming more acidic every day. And now, as I said, they are trying to sort of include liming as part of their subsidy program. And that's like just trying to bandage like a wound. It's not really going to help, right? The best way to sort it out is saying, how can we give our soils life again?
I'm here thinking, if they were genuine about sorting these problems, and we know that the rabbit urine is one of the most important organic fertilizer. So imagine on that budget, the budget they have on fertilizer, channel that money to farmers to just rear rabbit for urine. And oh my goodness, that money, first of all, goes back to the people. And the solution is a long-term solution. I know people that are doing rabbit farming purely for the urine. So the meat and the skin is just an additional, but they pack it. You know those 5-liter vibuyus? That's what they pack. When you see the construction of the rabbit housing, is meant to collect the urine. So zinaingia tu kwa vibuyu, and a kibuyu, I think, was going for 600 or 1,000, one kibuyu. And it does magic on the soil. It does real magic on the soil, sometimes even the flower beds and such. So when I say again, when they bring up solutions, have they thought about the solution wholesomely? Let them think about the whole thing, and once, not just who is nitakula ngapi pale, nitapata ngapi pale, that is the motivation. Brilliant idea. I totally applaud fertilizer subsidy, but let them look at it in the wholesomeness of it. Let them encourage manure use. Actually, if there's anything that needs to be a government policy right now, is the use of manure. Because you will not need lime when you're using manure on your farm. The soil balances itself. We have pastoralist communities that they need to not just sell the meat, not just sell the skin. They also need to sell the manure and recoup good money on their manure, And I say it's an ecosystem, but we've sort of disconnected it because mkulima akiuza manure, atutakula. So we don't talk about that. Let's do the importation. But in the long run, and when I say this thing comes to affect us, you're rich, you're poor, you're a billionaire, it will affect you at the end of the day. So these noble ideas that they have, let them think about them, implement them with the farmer in mind.
Because these fertilizers, they're not made here in Kenya.
They're not.
Right? They are importing it from Saudi Arabia, from Russia. And currently we are in a war. So our farmers won't plant because there's a war somewhere in the Middle East, while our farmers actually have manure in their homes that they can use. So I think there's this mentality that we have to get rid of.
Actually, it's a programming that the Kenyan farmer has been programmed to sustain that. We've been programmed that huwezi lima bila fertilizer. Do you know that's a programming already in the farmers? Even when I plant, the first thing comes, nimenunua DCP, whatever, the DAP fertilizer. So your mind is programmed that if I put manure in my farm, it won't perform. And actually, it's the opposite. If you put fertilizer, you put manure, you balance your soils, your crop is actually going to do way better. So even us as farmers, we need to understand that you only don't have to apply the imported manure for your crop to perform.
Absolutely. I mentioned one of my biggest recommendation for the government is to actually introduce the organic fertilizer subsidy as part of the fertilizer subsidy. And here's the reason why I was saying that. Because I said, if you go into market and try to get a 50 kg fertilizer, you'll get it at 7,000. and the government is subsidizing 5,000. So if you go to an NCPP store, you'll get it at 2,500. So that's 5,000. For a 50 kg organic fertilizer, you'll get it anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000. So if the government will subsidize at 2,500, that's about 1,000, 2,000 at most that the government is subsidizing. So on that rate, one way they are saving their money, and two, they're helping farmers actually revive their soils instead of again going into the liming position. So first of all, you'll be able to save money if you introduce the organic fertilizer subsidy. And secondly, the fact that the organic fertilizer is local makes our food system actually more resilient. Now we don't have to spend like 5,000 literally taking that money to other countries, because you're literally exporting that money to Saudi Arabia, to Russia. That's basically what you're saying. So if we introduce like organic subsidies, that means we have a lot of local companies that are making organic fertilizers. And I did a math on this, and we can actually see, because one of the biggest objections people have against organic fertilizers is that it won't produce enough. But since we know, what synthetic fertilizers do to our soils, we know over time they're going to degrade our soils, and that results in lower production over time. So let's say we were to have a 10-year sort of long study of an application between synthetic fertilizers and organic fertilizers. In year one, synthetic fertilizers will give you 35 bags, while organic fertilizers will give you 22 bags. So there's a balance of, let's say, 13 bags. By year 5, synthetic fertilizers will give you 25 bags. So there's a loss of 10 bags. And organic fertilizers will give you 26 bags. By year 10, synthetic fertilizers are going to give you 15 bags. So this is a decrease from year 1 of 35 bags to now we are at 15 bags. But the organic system will give you up to 30 bags. And the reason behind that is very simple. Why? Because organic fertilizers actually rejuvenate the soil and make the soils more alive. And I think, for me, if we are serious about helping farmers and actually enabling them to produce for the long term, then organic fertilizer subsidy has to be part of the subsidy program as well. All right. I think it's time we move to our next topic. I think this one will be an interesting one. The CS for Agriculture, CS Kagwe, now says that we should stop subdividing land. I think this one he was directly talking to my community here, because Kisiis are very notorious for subdividing land, and we've been accused of this. So when he was speaking in Mombasa, the CS said that excessive fragmentation of land makes it harder to implement modern mechanized and climate-smart practices. Kagwe called different stakeholders in the agricultural sector to initiate discussions on land subdivision and develop guidelines that will promote strategic land use and food sustainable economic growth. So he cited, in some cases, a single hectare has been subdivided among 6 children. He says we cannot afford to continue this fragmentation. Large consolidated farms are critical for mechanization, investment, and building resilient agricultural economy. In some ways, you could say he's right in terms of the picture he has in mind of actually agricultural productivity is mechanization and sort of large farms, the American model of production. So this is what he has in his mind, right? But we know in Kenya, 80% of our food comes from smallholder farmers. So should we try and sort of bend our small-scale farmers to become like large-scale farmers, or should we encourage them to sort of, yes, we know you're small-scale farmers, let's encourage you to produce the way?
I actually think the Minister of Agriculture is selling a foreign agenda in Kenya. That language is purely meant to sell an agenda that is being pushed in the African continent. I'm here still trying to think, what's the connection between dividing 1 acre with production of food in terms of increase or reduction? My mind has not given me an answer. What actually happens, these are hereditary homes. These are farms. You have 6 sons, you give them, and like even my community is not even unique. I'm a Meru. This happens because what happens, you get land from your parent, you have a small place to construct a home, then you have a section where you do your traditionally farming. It's either you're doing maize, coffee, whatever. But let me tell you something. When you look at it in the bigger picture, it is so connected with the policies that the government, the bills that the government is sending in parliament. First of all, we got our independence in 1963. 80% of our food supply is from small-scale farmers. It's never been from corporations. It's never been from the Del Montes. It's never been from Kakuzi. Mention to me one big farm that supplies food in Kenya, like in the market. Just give me one. There's none. So this is a narrative they're trying to create. As an African, as a Kenyan, we've farmed all the years in our small ways. And we know how to adapt to new changes. When lands have become smaller, we've leased pieces of lands in arid areas, we've gone to do farming. But Brian, let me say this, mechanization. So in mind, the CES has in mind mechanizing agriculture in Kenya. We are 60 years past independence. Tell me the percentage of Kenyans providing food for the society that are mechanized. Honestly. So this is a script. This is a lifted narrative from a piece of paper that is trying to be, let me say, those words, when you look at reality, they don't match. There's no, in terms of reality, we have a way of doing our farming. You know, when my farm becomes smaller, come to Kiambu County. When you come to Kiambu County, where I am, I can do magic in a quarter of an acre. A quarter of an acre where I live. I have a cow, I have like a place yangu ya ng'ombe. And let me tell you, we even do it in like first floor, second floor, that floor. Juu kabisa niko na kuku za mayai, okay? Chini niko na ng'ombe. Okay? And on the side, I have goats. That's 100 by... And I have a home there. And I have a borehole there. I'm telling you, if you walk into these farms, they do great work. So please, the question of subdividing land is no here nor there. We know how to adapt to situations that we find ourselves in. Why is Kiambu County like that? Because Kiambu County is a metropolis. Kiambu County has turned to be more like Nairobi. And actually, Kiambu County provides more food for Nairobi. So you work with what you have. Okay? So this is a foreign agenda. And it should be banned. It should not be entertained in any Kenyan discussion. When let them tell us about one big farm in Kenya that sells food here in Kenya. They export everything. They export everything. So I think that's hot air. I wish you could just bring him on this. Next time you need to bring him on the podcast. Let him tell us practically what actually happens on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other way to look at it from an African context is us as African, we're so connected to our land that the way they, let's say, go into America or Europe, they're not. Because in America, you can hear someone saying, maybe they're living in California, and they're like, you know what, I'm tired of here. I'm just moving to Florida.
It's very hard for an African to do that. For Africans.
So, for example, for me to convince me and say, you know, we want you to get out of Kisii, never go back there.
For you, it's not the money, it's a connection. And when you go to, like on Thika Road, all the Merus live on Thika Road. They want to be directly connected with the road to Meru. Yes. That is, I don't know, it is just so us. We have a connection with our lands. It's just not, I think that's just our make.
And we should actually lean into that. And I think that's a strength of ours that a lot of first world countries don't have. And that means once we have that connection, you are very much invested in the land. You don't become reckless in using your land because you know you don't have anywhere else to go. Yeah. And I think that's a misconception that the CS has, that he thinks that if a father decides to subdivide his land to give it to his children, he doesn't know what they're doing or they don't have the wisdom. So, for example, let's take an example. You give a 5-acre piece of land. Yeah. So you have one guy who just grows maize and you have another guy, let's say a father with 4 kids. He gives 1 acre to each of the kids and also retains 1 acre. So he has 1 acre, subdivided it to 5 different pieces of land. And you have one guy who just grows maize throughout the season, right? So what the CS doesn't understand is that actually these 5 guys will produce more food than what this guy of who produces just maize 1 acre would, right? Because these 5 guys, you'll find he has a goat, he has a cow, he's growing some indigenous vegetables, he has some bananas, growing maize and beans, growing sweet potatoes. So all these things, he has actually have a higher density of production than what this 5 acre just maize does.
In such a setting, actually, in these large scale sort of what they are trying to sell, they push monocrop. They just put a single crop, monocrop. If it's maize, it's maize, So I think he's not well informed, and I can tell he's just lifting some message from a script. Because then it doesn't reflect with what is on the ground.
Yeah, so I think from that perspective, this is one thing they forget to look at in terms of the wholesome production. And farmers have been feeding themselves using this system. So I think instead of trying to demonize the farmers, it's much better if the government sort of trying to see what are some of the ways that we can actually work with them to make them more productive. So that would be very interesting. I think it's time we move to our next topic, and that is on the Coffee Act. So recently, the president enacted what they are calling reforms in the Kenya coffee industry, where he signed the Kenya Coffee Act, which is derived from the coffee bill. This sets a motion, a broader institutional overhaul in one of the country's most storied export industries. So under the law, it will create the Kenya Coffee Board, which will oversee licensing across the industry. And it also introduces a new funding mechanism of the industry, where it introduces a 2.5 coffee development and marketing levy, which will be applied to all coffee that is exported and imported. Just to give these things in perspective, coffee currently is the third largest agricultural export in the country. On average, it gives us about 8.2 billion. This is actually in 3 months, so in July to September 2025. And roughly 95% of the Kenyan coffee is actually exported. Looks like we don't even enjoy our own coffee.
It's very interesting when you look at the loss of investment in terms of coffee. I think there's a lot of boardroom decision making in government. We export coffee berries, and 95% of the work that is done on that coffee is done in another country. That coffee gets its way back to the country in terms of endowments. Coffee, it's all Kenyan coffee that is coming back, but it went as berries, And you keep asking, okay, there's nothing wrong with allowing countries that want to buy and go and package. But can't we have even a small percentage of coffee processed to the final level in Kenya? Let them see. If we, of the 100% harvest of coffee, can't we even have even 40% processed and packaged in Kenya to a final product? Then we can export the 60%, Because there's so much we lose: the job opportunities, the pride of it, the ownership of it. And I grew up harvesting coffee in my life. I grew up carrying coffee on my back to the factory. And in the Moi days, coffee was the thing, was the cash crop. Every homestead had like a small farm of coffee. But let me tell you, and I've mentioned that in my book that I'm authoring, the most disappointing thing about the coffee period in Kenya, we are not doing much coffee now, was that coffee never benefited the farmer. Because me, I was supposed to go to school using coffee returns, but my mom could not pay school fees using coffee because the farmer would never get much out of it. But coffee was time and again exported out of this country. And we have very good soils. We have volcanic soils in Kenya. We produce the best quality of coffee is produced in Kenya. We've had the KPCU, the old one. We've had the new KPCU in the Uhuru time. Now we have this bill. Now there's a new coffee board that has been formed. And I know farmers have come to, I know now a lot of coffee exports are now sort of a bit less controlled. Like farmers are coming together, or like expansive pieces of land become like 10 people together, we export our coffee direct. That has helped a bit. Actually, the prices of coffee have really come up when you compare to the more it is. That's a good thing. And the people that had cut down all their coffee trees are now replanting.
It's quite interesting. So the bill actually establishes the Coffee Board of Kenya, which will handle licensing and exporters, and then introduces the Coffee Research and Training Institute. So this will be dedicated to doing research on coffee, especially on fighting diseases and stuff. And now the third one, again, we've got to follow the money, the 2.5 levy. This one will be done on every import and export of coffee that will be done in the country. Based on the estimates, so that is roughly 13 million US dollars that will be coming in from this levy. So that in Kenyan terms, that's about 1.73 billion Kenya shillings that will be coming through the levy. So there's apparently a lot of money in there for the new coffee board to handle.
Is it liberalizing the industry, or is it neck choking the industry? Because I think the more liberal, the better. I know there is treaties that we've signed that there are a lot of questions around why do Africans export all their raw materials raw? There's actually a treaty to it. Most African countries, minerals, cash crops, we have a tendency, even when you look at Ghana, the cocoa berries, there's a tendency of exporting, and I'm sorry to tell you, imagine the biggest coffee market, the auction, the biggest coffee auction is in Dubai. So, and I talked to senior government officials, they told me, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of cartels. It's just like drugs in this whole thing, where the money is going. And okay, fine. This happens in the human civilization where people want to make more. But why can't we encourage, why can't we pack up, even though, don't even give us 40%, give us 30% of Kenyan coffee processed to a final product here in Kenya. For example, we have Melvin tea. Melvin is a Kenyan brand. And actually, I think the owner of Melvin Company has been awarded the best, one of the few local companies. But now imagine Melvin tea has come up competing with, say, Ketepa. And Ketepa is foreign. Ketepa is not local. So we give the Kenyan people an opportunity to build local brands. Yeah. So all in all, like you said, follow the money. And then you see where this is going.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. And I was looking at the prices. So apparently, at the farm gate, farmers sell a kg at 120. At the auction, so when it's going for export, they sell it at 1,000 bob per kg. And yeah, they say this is because it actually takes 6 kgs of raw coffee to make 1 kg of clean export coffee. So there's a lot of math that goes in there, maybe to justify the pricing. But and then roasted, when it's actually roasted and packaged, it can cost anywhere to 4,000 Kenya shillings. So there's a lot of money to be made between the export and processing that coffee. Yeah, because that's a difference of literally 3,000 Kenya shillings. So there's a lot of money there. And something interesting for me for this bill is actually establishes a parastatal. So in the agricultural sector alone, we have up to 30 parastatals already. I don't know if you know any of this. So we have the Kenya Coffee Board, which is the new one. We have the Tea Board. We have the Dairy Board. We have AFA, which was controlling the coffee sector. Now it's on its own. We have the Kenya Sisal Board. This is something I didn't know existed. Was surprised by this. And KEFIS, of course, Tea Research, National Biosafety Authority. This is one of those that I think needs to be deleted right now because we don't want GMOs at all. Yeah, this one is used to control GMOs. I think let's touch a little bit about the seed prices. So another subsidy we are going to talk about. So apparently the deputy president has said that the government has allocated 2 billion Kenya shillings to subsidize maize seeds in Kenya. So this will take effect on March 25th. This is following a system completion between the Kenya Seed Company and the Ministry of Agriculture. They say that the aim of this is to reduce input costs and boost maize production across the country. So under the new subsidy, 1 kg of the maize seed used to cost 300. So under the subsidy, it will cost 260. So that's a 40 bob difference. That's about a 13%. 2 kg was at 600, now it's 525. 10 kg was at 3,000, now it's 2,625. And 25 kg was at 7,500, now it's 6,560. That there is a lot of money again that has been used to subsidize input production. Something interesting is that we saw the other day they were talking about trying to privatize
Kenya Seed Company. And not actually trying, it's on the list. The intention is to privatize Kenya Seed Company. And even before they privatize Kenya Seed Company, 48% of Kenya Seed Company is still privately owned. Even before they privatize. Actually, the government owns 48 years. 52% is not owned by the government. Yeah. So, and you can literally try to dig who owns it. It's a bit hard to get to know. And Kenya Seed Company has a lot of affiliates. You will find similar seeds there. You'll find all these seed producing companies are in there with small percentages of shares here and there. The hypocrisy, oh my goodness, the hypocrisy of this government. In terms of fixing issues around agriculture. So you're going to you're going to subsidize seeds, and then you're going to privatize Kenya Seed Company. Who really benefits? Yeah. Who really benefits? Yeah, and what we are doing, we've started a campaign. We're telling farmers not to buy packed seeds. We want to encourage farmers to take that. It's an energy, it's a financial machine. The money that we spend buying packed seeds, buy those seeds from your local farmer. In Makueni, or in Meru, or in Kisii. We will have farmers producing seeds for sale, locally. We just stop buying packed seeds. We stop going to the shops because now we are in danger of a GMO. Literally, why we don't have GMO seeds right now in the market is because it's a court order. There's actually a court order in effect as we are speaking that the government cannot produce the 2BT maize seeds until the case is finished in court. So we are not off the hook yet. Fine. We don't know how that case is going to go. It's just its final stages. We have a Kenya Seed Company being privatized. We have legalization of GMO in Kenya right now. We are so exposed as farmers and as locals. Yeah, we are so exposed. Look at it how you want to look at it. For me, that subsidy is just people eating money. Is not meant to help the farmer. Yeah. And we encourage Kenya farmers. I've seen where I come from where I live in Kiambu County. I've seen farmers growing terere seeds and they sell in the market. When you go to Wangige market, you can actually buy seeds. There's actually a section in the market where you buy seeds. Nieke ya terere, nieke ya nini, hata za hoho, utapakiwa zote. Farmer produced seeds. Yeah. We would want to encourage farmers to do that wherever they are. Produce seeds for sale. One, for protection of our seeds. Two, that benefit is pushed down to the local farmer. Because now when you're buying seeds from a corporation, that financial benefit goes up. It doesn't benefit the people.
Yeah, it goes straight in the pockets. And the advantage of using our local seeds is they become more resilient. Exactly. Because now if you're using the hybrids from Kenya Seed, you literally, if you try to replant them, you will see a 50% decrease in production. Yeah. So in the long term, this is not a good path to follow. And quite interesting that apparently Kenya Seed does make a huge amount of profit. So they're saying here it can make anything from 400 to 800 million Kenya shillings a year. So there's a lot of money there. Yeah. You can see why they would want to sort of privatize it. Yeah. And it was actually very interesting to see the breakdown of how much it costs to produce, let's say, a 25 kg of seed. So usually, this is something actually I didn't know. For Kenya Seed to produce the seeds, the final packaged seeds, they usually have contracted grower farmers. So they're actually farmers, their work is to grow the F1 seeds, the seeds that are being packaged for them to sell to our farmers. So apparently they have huge lands in Kitale, in Eldoret, where the parent seeds, those seeds are taken to these farmers, then they grow those seeds, and then once they grow, then they can take those seeds, put a lot of chemicals there to sort of prevent it and stuff. and then they can be able to sell it. So apparently they pay these farmers 110 Kenya shillings per kg to produce those seeds for sales. And this is interesting because you mentioned about farmer produced seeds. So literally farmers can use the same system to actually enrich our own local seed production. So it is doable. They can do it in scale. So I think farmers can also do it. And this is a way of sort of decentralizing the whole system. Instead of Kenya Seed just owning the whole process of producing, farmers themselves can be empowered and be able to produce themselves. And it stops farmers from seeing like seed reproduction such as this like complex way of producing seed.
And literally, we have groups like Kenya Seed Savers, they train people on seed propagation. Like if you have a cob of maize, you know which part of the maize gives you the best quality for a seed, And this technology, this has been African. This is nothing foreign. This is what we've done all the years, We've kept seeds, we've smoked our seeds, like preserving them for 20 years. So this is a local knowledge that we can still use to produce and preserve seeds.
Absolutely. It's just quickly, I'm going to give you a laydown of how much money it actually costs to produce a 25 kg bag. So they're going to pay grow-up farmers. So here, they're going to spend about 2,750. So this is the amount they're going to pay per farmer who's producing the seeds. Then from there, they are going to pay processing and treatment. So once they get those seeds from farmers, they're going to dry them and put a lot of chemicals. That one is going to cost them 1,400. And then there's packaging and logistics, costs them about 600 bob. And there's operational overhead. So this is what they pay employees and stuff. So overall, a 25 kg is going to cost you 5,500. In the market, you will find them selling at 7,500. So that's about a 2,000 profit. And then if you look at the subsidized amount, so the government was subsidizing it to 6,560 from 7,500. So that's about 940 Kenya shillings that the government is paying to Kenya Seed for subsidizing those seeds. I'm sure there are guys there who saw an opportunity there to eat the money. So, all right. I want us to move into West Africa a little bit to have a look at what's happening there. And we are going all the way to Burkina Faso. So apparently for the first time in years, Burkina Faso has become self-sufficient in food production. And this is because of the work of Captain Traoré. It goes on to say, in response to these challenges, President Traoré launched what he called an agricultural offensive in 2023. He has been revolutionizing rural environment and has been serving as a model for the continent. This is despite, apparently, they are still in war. So there are still jihad groups around the country that are still fighting. It goes on to say, and the quest for this has deep roots. Apparently, it dates back to Thomas Sankara in 1980s, where he did an agrarian revolution in Burkina Faso, whereby he distributed land. He plot about more power into the local small-scale farmers. And actually, the UN recognized this effort, and they said for the first time, Burkina Faso became self-sufficient in food production. This is back in the 1980s. So apparently, Captain Traoré has someone to look up to in terms of food production. And his main things he has done is actually mechanized the production there. So he's given a lot of machines to small-scale farmers, and a lot of these machines are those handheld machines where farmers can use easily. And he also did a lot of processing, so value add. He has done a lot of that. In fact, he opened a new tomato processing plant in the country. Apparently, it's the first one in the country. It looks small, but apparently it's something to celebrate about. So is this a plan that some of African governments can use?
Brian, I think when you've been stuck in a problem for a very long time, maybe your solution is just But because you're stuck in that problem for so long, you're not able to lift up your head and see the solution that is up for you. Let me just give you a scenario. Take this country today, and you want food security. Forget about this boardroom stuff. They keep saying subsidy, what here and there. Announce at the beginning of the year or beginning of the rains, say like the rains were in March. Announce at the beginning, a minister of government, the Minister of Agriculture announces, the Kenyan NCPB stores, we will pick maize at 6,000. And I think that's fair. And then control the borders, because what happens after that? People go to import the maize and bring it to Lilima. Make sure you control the borders, no maize comes in. Okay? When you do this subsidy of fertilizer that you're doing, it's not done from boardroom, it's not done from the elite. It's actually implemented by the chiefs. Go down completely. And they are called extension officers. The chief as an attachee of an extension officer. That's where the fertilizer is circulated at. So there's no kuna ule alipata kulea kupata. Farmers, all of them get. Okay? And I'm sure you know Kenyans when it comes when we had a quail egg. Kenyans will go and do this thing. So all the people will be farming because they know at the end of the 4 months, all the maize will go to NCPB. You'll have killed the cartel of the brokers who come with lorries. So the NCPB, who are the custodians of our food basket, will be in charge of making sure the millers are getting the cereals that they need to get. You don't need boardroom, you don't need what, you just need genuineness in sorting a problem. And I think that's what Traoré has done. Yeah. Bring in the machines. When you want to do the subsidy, let it be genuine subsidy. So you don't need 3 years to bring food sustainability or increase food production in that country. Just be genuine about what you want to do and let your actions be believable. When it comes to horticulture, perishables, and what Traoré has done, a military officer is just very practical in the solutions he brings in his country. We have a high production, and actually Burkina Faso is majorly a desert. So it's I would look at it like Ukambani sort of, which is very good in fruit production. So that's a very good weather for tomatoes. So we have a glut of tomatoes. Take that tomato, do value addition. It's just that simple. And this becomes the first country to do value addition on tomatoes in Africa. So it is not that it's not rocket science, Brian. It is so simple. You just get yourself out of the bureaucracy and be genuine about doing these things. Yeah. And it is achievable. And you don't need 10 years. You actually don't need 10 years to do this. You need 1 year. Because in Kenya, most areas in Kenya have 2 rainy seasons. The lucky places have 3, but in Kenya, mostly in Nani, we have 2 rainy seasons. And you can achieve that food security and food sustainability.
And something that is striking for me is the buy-in from the farmers themselves. So they are really bought into the vision that Traoré was selling them. So I think that one helps a lot when the leader and the farmers themselves are in the same boat. Yeah. Something interesting actually between Sankara and Traoré is that they rejected the IMF. So back in the 1980s when Sankara was the president, he actually said no to IMF loans. Same thing that Traoré is doing. So it's quite interesting, their philosophy is kind of similar. And I guess it's a philosophy that a lot of African presidents don't have. Because, for example, here in Kenya, we are drowning in debts. And I think they have learned or they've looked across the pond and they're like, there's a lot of guys who are drowning in debt. You can't imagine that 80% of the revenues that we have goes into paying debt. So long term, I don't think that's very much sustainable. Something interesting also, apparently in the 25-26 season, Burkina Faso claimed their top 3 position in production of cotton, right? Which is interesting considering that they had adopted GMO back in 2008. So the then president allowed GMOs to come in, and then apparently it failed terribly, and then they had to go back to the conventional cotton, which is now doing very well, and they become 3rd in terms of exporting the organic cotton.
There's a lot to learn from Burkina Faso. Yeah. There's a lot we need to learn. And actually, the simplicity of a solution is actually the game changer. It doesn't have to be complex. The simplicity of it, just farm do this, it's very simple. And that is actually the solution. We don't need lengthy boardroom meetings, documents that are this big, to fix a food problem that we can easily sort as a country. And when you mention IMF and the loans, and you follow the auditor's report that was out last week, we are actually, oh my goodness, these cases, they're traumatizing. We are actually, like, for example, there's a loan that the Kenyan government picked for Kenya Power to do cabling, underground cabling, that the Kenya Power doesn't even know. I'm telling you, this is the auditor's report. Yeah. A loan that we've not started paying. There's a fee you're paying before you start paying the loan. Because the reason for that loan, that money was picked but never actualized. So Kenya Power said, no, we pick a loan to like lay cables on the ground. So this is the craziness of these loans. I'm sorry to say, the IMF will never sort a single problem in Africa. They'll always aggravate the problems. It's just like you, Brian, you have a phone there. There are a lot of phone loans. There's so many. Would they fix your problems? They would never. They actually bring a problem on top of a problem. So when you realize you need to have homegrown solutions to your problem and just work with what you have, you're a better person. Even on the country level, we just have to have homegrown solutions to our problems without thinking about IMF, without thinking about World Bank.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move a little bit down to Nigeria. Apparently, Africa's richest man has decided to open a fertilizer factory. And interestingly, he's coming all the way up in Ethiopia. That's where he wants to open it. The fertilizer is a 2.5 billion project, which will be developed by the Dangote Group, which will own 60%, and the Ethiopian Investment Holding will have 40%, and it's set for completion in 2029. Once it's operational, it will become East Africa's largest fertilizer production facility, which will be addressing both local and international market. Over the past decades, Dangote has built the largest cement manufacturing network across Africa, as well as it has aggressively expanded to petrochemicals through the Dangote refinery, which is the largest oil refinery in Nigeria. So the plan is that the fertilizer will be producing 3 million ton capacity per year. To put this in perspective, it will become the 5th largest complex to produce fertilizer. So apparently, number one, we have the OSP group in Morocco, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and then Egypt. So why did he go all the way to Ethiopia? Why not Kenya? Because I'm thinking, we are geographically well located. We are very close to the ocean. So if he wants to export some fertilizer, he could do that easily. But it looks like Ethiopia was a good place for him to go.
Just bureaucracies, Maybe someone who... We've realized even the tendering processes here in Kenya, when you're not able to give a good kickback, then of course you don't get the job. So maybe someone wanted something and they did not get. Of course, they don't look at the bigger picture. Actually, Dangote was supposed to have 5 years ago supposed to have established a cement factory in Kenya that never saw the light of day. Of course, there's the bureaucracies, the who is eating and who. For me, so long as it's an African doing something, it's not perfect. It has a lot of faults around, but so long as an African doing it, there's some good things about that. Yeah. And not forgetting that Ethiopia built the largest dam in Africa the other day with a lot of pushback from these foreign countries. Why did you construct this dam? They know. They know when Ethiopia has this massive dam, agriculture is going to be revolutionized and a lot of things are going to change. So I think that's a good thing. We're not going to cry really much that it's not in Kenya. Ethiopia is not very far away. So long as there's something happening, we're like, it's happening in, the way we celebrate Burkina Faso. We're so happy. Yeah. We're not directly benefiting from Burkina Faso, but we're happy. That inspiration, inspiring us that one day we may get where they are. So that's a good step. More so, this is, the as they do that, we, the organic people, need to push production of organic fertilizer. It's incorporated in both, they're doing this conventional, and also we need organic production of fertilizers.
Something interesting that I actually got to learn during this whole process. The reason why he's doing that as well is because of energy. Apparently, to produce fertilizer requires high levels of energy. So there's a reason why these fertilizer plants are based in Saudi Arabia, they're based in Russia, they're based in the US. It's because to produce fertilizers, you need a lot of energy. Yeah. So to put that in perspective, actually, you see the 50 kg bag of fertilizer. To produce that 50 kg fertilizer, you need about 160 kilowatts. So to put that in perspective, in Kenya, let's say you own a 1-bedroom house, the 160 kilowatts, you will use that in about 6 months. So you can see why, and because now apparently Ethiopia has high supply of gas that they can easily use to grind that nitrogen, because remember, like 78% of the air we breathe is nitrogen. Yeah. And the difference is it's like tightly held together, and to like remove or break that bond, you need a lot of energy. So it's one of the reasons why he decided to go there. And also the government buying also helps, because it will be owned, 40% of it will be owned by the Ethiopian government as well. So pretty interesting. And plus to add that Ethiopia has over 120 million people. So there's a lot of market there as well they're looking for. So good business move from the guy. So yeah, we'll be able to follow that and see. Lastly, I want us to cover our last story. Apparently, there's a guy in Zambia who has 62 kids. And he has 7 wives. And he says he's doing this exclusively from farming. So he's raising all those people by farming alone. So apparently he's able to produce about 5,000 bags of maize annually to feed his children. And on the other hand, he has been able to take his children to school. Actually, some of them are in university. So this just goes to show, or rather cement, some of the beliefs that we had. Like the African system of raising family always works to some extent. And considering nowadays a lot of guys don't want to have children. So there's sort of light at the end of the day. And it just shows that it's kind of similar. This guy is in Zambia and I'm in Kenya, and I can point to a lot of people who live a similar lifestyle here in Kenya. So as you were mentioning earlier, the Ubuntu kind of thing is actually truly, truly African, because it's very well spread across the African continent. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. And something that really interested to me is how he's using his children. So he's not seeing his children as a burden, but rather like a form of labor.
When you look at the sustainability of even a farm, the biggest of them is labor. So he is it. Everyone is touching something. When you have 62 children, everyone is doing something, and he has no problem with labor, And it's for me, that looks like an ecosystem. Even the wives, in the African setting, we've been having a lot of conversations around polygamy. We just need to accept this thing, that this polygamy thing is here to stay. And as much as we run from it, of course, it came with Christianity. It just doesn't work in the African setting. If you're either not having a second wife, you're having a mpango kando. This thing, as much as you refuse to discuss it, it's something. And now, in the African setting, women were rich, ni utajiri. This is riches. When you have 2-3 wives, these are riches. In the African setting, you had many wives because they needed to take care of your wealth. So you're actually married because you have so much land, you need a wife taking care of that and that and that and that. That was the basis. That's the basis of polygamy in the African setting. So your wealth is actually taken care of. You didn't marry because you're a pauper. No. You married because you had enough. So for me, I have to dig deeper into that story. I want to see how he does that. But Zambia is a very agricultural country, a lot. And so I'm sure he has chunks and chunks of land. So, and every wife is in charge of something.
Yeah, and it actually shows that agriculture still remains the foundation of wealth. If you look at it, the guy has the basics, like the basics of what you need to live. He has food, he has shelter.
You know, our definition of life, our definition of success is actually distorted. You had to eat breakfast in the morning coming here, and you needed to be healthy, and you needed a house or a home. Basically, these are the three things that you need to live or to have life. So when you see we are so much against GMOs, it's an attack of the existence of our people. You actually sometimes don't need money to live. You actually need food to live. So you could have the money, but you do not have the food to buy. That money cannot translate to food. So essentially, agriculture is the basis of life.
Absolutely. And can we also talk about the women? Apparently, they are very fertile. I mean, if you do the math, 7 wives, 62 children, that's about
many children per woman?
8 to 9 children. So that's a very high fertility rate.
I see how the West is very good at creating a problem and purporting to give a solution. Give people GMOs, bad foods, then introduce IVF, you know. And children are just a blessing. Call it God, call it nature. They just come, you know. So whatever foods you eat really determines your sexual ability, your fertility. It's just all on the kind of food. That's why they really want. You have to ask yourself, why is GMO banned literally across the world? In Russia, criminal offense, you go to jail, you know. And more countries are stepping away from it because it actually is a threat to the existence of our people.
Because in the end, it actually changes the DNA composition of the people and the environment around it.
Exactly. The food we consume can engineer, and is actually engineering men to be gay because they've introduced a female hormone in the food. So when the female hormone is in the lady, it's okay. But when a female hormone gets into a male body, it changes even the looks, the tendencies. I'm a woman because of the hormones. You're a man because of the hormones in you. There's a study that has shown GMOs, you know, it's a lab engineered seed, can actually target to attack your sperm. And not just your sperm, attack a black sperm because it's in the DNA. You know, so GMO can be engineered in a particular way to achieve a particular result. So you've taken the power that God gave us in nature, and God balances nature like really well. Nature has a way of balancing itself. So you've taken all that power and given to one human being to make that decision. Isn't that the biggest risk that humanity is exposing itself to? You know, the human beings are the only living species that spray food to eat. You know, this is the craziest part. In God's creation, we are the only people who spray the food that we eat. And don't forget, there are a lot of things people have not looked into. When you spray, when you have a GMO seed, for example, bees are very central in pollination. Imagine GMOs have the ability of killing bees. Bees are so important in the ecosystem. So without bees, there's so much that we've lost. Just imagine this seed that actually kills bees. What is it doing to your body? And that's a conversation people don't want us to have. But whichever way, we'll have to have that conversation. We have to have that conversation.
Yeah. That's a conversation that we have to create time and have it. I think that has been really, really insightful. To finish it off, I have this thing I call root or shoot. So the idea is very simple. We'll get to go through all the topics that we have talked about, and I'll just shoot like a sentence to you, and then you just have to say whether it's a root or a shoot. So a root is like saying it's true. A shoot is like saying, yeah, that's nonsense. Let's start with the fertilizer subsidy here. So fertilizer subsidies help farmers more than they harm the system. Is it a root or a shoot?
Shoot.
All right, interesting. Second one, lower seed prices automatically lead to higher farm productivity.
Shoot.
Okay, let's talk about the third one. Small land sizes make farming more efficient.
Shoot.
Fourth one, if food is available in the market, it's safe for consumption.
Shoot. Doesn't mean it's safe.
All right, let's talk about coffee. Reforming agricultural sector always benefit farmers in the long run.
Shoot.
All right, Africa producing its own agricultural input is the solution to higher farming costs.
Root.
All right, a country can achieve food security without relying on imports.
Root.
It's a root. And the last one, farming alone can sustain very large families in today's economy.
Root. Okay.
It's a root. All right. Thank you very much. this is the very first episode, so it's like we are testing the concept. All right, we are testing this concept. I think so far it's been good. So again, thank you very much for making the time and being like unapologetically open to sharing your ideas and the opinion. So that is meant to be the whole idea of this particular segment. And I enjoyed it. And I think the beauty about this, it gives us a platform and opportunity to talk about things that are happening around the agricultural sector in real time. Something that we might not have on a normal podcast conversation, because, that's more of a personal, like one-to-one conversation. But this platform now gives us that opportunity to hop on and have those kind of conversations. So super excited for this segment. So apparently you're working on a book.
Yeah, I'm working on a book. I'm doing a soft release in the next 2 weeks. And but the proper launch is going to be in July.
You've settled about the title. Okay. Oh, that's something you'll tell us as time goes, or?
I will in the next episode. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Looking forward to that. You are all over social media, so if someone wants to follow you,
I'm on X. Mary K 2022.
Why 2022 though?
I don't know. I don't even know why. I was never an X person until 2024. I didn't even know how to use X. That's how I got because the president was coming on X. You want to hack it, and I was so involved in the demonstrations of 2024, so you had to hack that. I'm on TikTok, Kadhomi, and to me, it's like a giving back to society. To me, I feel like it's just giving back. I could have danced on TikTok. I could have done comedy. I just chose, let me just give back to the society. And like I pay my rent being on this planet. Like I've paid my rent. God, I did it. And we educate each other. We change opinions every other day. I'm not stuck. When I say something, I'm willing to learn and change my perspectives as I get more information. So yeah, you're doing a good job. The attack on food, it's big. So the fact that you've stuck on this for a year plus, wow, that's amazing. And you sometimes even your morale might die. You're like, oh my goodness, am I doing this alone? Sometimes you feel alone. Yeah. But for doing this, please keep pushing. There are a lot of farmers. I get phone calls from South Africa. Farmers want seeds. South Africa has really been affected by GMOs. They've been there for the longest. So now farmers are looking for seeds. So keep doing this. It's very important.
Yeah, definitely. We are just getting started. And thank you very much for gracing us in this episode. I hope to have you in every single episode moving forward.
I want to do this. When we win, I'll carry my bag and I say, bye, Brand, we won. I don't have to do. Sometimes I feel like if we didn't have this to do, we'd just be living our private life. If we didn't have to fight against GMOs, you don't have to fight for organic food. But when you look at the rate of cancers in the country, you look at the pollution, then we have to do this.
All right. That was the time for today's Organic Perspective. Looking forward to do it again in a week or two. And let me know in the comments if you like this format, something we want us to keep doing. That would be pretty good. So till the next episode of the Organic Perspective, be organic. Cheers.